Hi, welcome to this webinar on career in construction. We'll be answering some of the frequently asked questions that will hopefully provide you with all the information you'd need to get into a career in construction and choose which job in the sector is right for you. I'm Louise and I work in the Employment and Skills team at Ealing Council, and I'll pass you on now to Hera, my project support officer, who will introduce our guest speakers.
Hi, I'm Hera. I'm the Project Support Officer at the Employment Learning and Skills Department at the Ealing Council. We are joined by our guest speakers, Divya Barker, who is a Social Value Coordinator at Higgins Partnership, Raju, who is the Social Value Assistant at Higgins Partnership, Rashan Hewitt, who is the Apprentice Quantity Surveyor, also at the Higgins Partnership, Sophia Patsy, the Community Engagement Officer at the Berkeley Group, and Jasmeet Burji, the Apprenticeship Support Officer, who also works at the Ealing Council.
Hi everyone, and thank you for joining us today. So let's get straight into it with the first set of questions, which is for Divya and Raju from the Higgins Partnership. So what does the average recruitment process look like?
With our recruitment process, we sort of have a two-stage system. So we always like to initially meet the candidates first to get an idea about their background and their interests, etc. So we'll have a first initial interview with them to sort of understand those things, get an idea of their skills, what they're interested in. There's a mix of competency and scenario-based questions in those as well. And then the next stage, that is usually online on Teams. The next stage is to have a second interview, which is in person, and that will usually be on site. So they get to meet the site manager or project manager, and vice versa. The project manager and site manager gets to meet the candidates as well. And then once a person has been selected, we then go through the HR process, getting all the paperwork ready for them to start. In relation to apprentices, we have a couple of different routes. So we always like to source them directly, but we also work with a number of different apprenticeship training agencies to support us as well with those. So that would be that sort of an overview about our recruitment process.
Perfect, thank you. And what qualities and skills do you look for when you're recruiting?
So some of the skills that we look for is things like commitment, a good attitude, good timekeeping, those sorts of qualities. And then also some of the things that we also like to see is if they've had any work experience, that's always nice to see on their CV as well, and to get an understanding of what they've done. If they've got a CSCS card as well, it's always great to see that, particularly with those trade roles. Those sorts of things I think are the main things. And then I think generally, kind of going back to the first question, having that initial conversation with them to really kind of meet them first as well is something we always try and do.
Lovely. And how often do your work opportunities come up usually?
This can be quite variable depending on the project. But aside from that, though, our department, we are in close contact with the project manager and site managers early on, so we can get an idea of the timelines of when certain subcontractors are going to be starting on the project. So then we can plan ahead in terms of getting opportunities on board for people. So, for example, you know, when we know when the electrical subcontractors are going to be on, we can think, okay, right, well, let's start trying to put out those opportunities for apprentices or work experience and things like that.
Perfect. So you mentioned a CSCS card previously. What is one of those and how do you get one?
So I'll take this one. So CSCS card, also known as the Construction Skill Certificate Scheme. It's pretty much a proof that an individual has the appropriate training and qualifications for the job. So while you're on site, if you have a CSCS card, well, every candidate and every subcontractor slash project manager and everyone on site must have a CSCS card in order to be on a construction site, due to the fact that there's so much hazards and so much risks of working in construction. So it's just a good way of monitoring that everyone is compliant on site. And how to actually obtain it would be you can directly go to the CITB website and obtain it through the CITB website by sitting 2 exams. So the first of all will be answering a varied amount of questions from the CITB book, which you can download, and there's an app also as well. And then the second exam would be a 1-day full day course where you would be shown and given knowledge about all the varied diseases and things that to be more mindful about, such as dermatitis and stuff like that. And yeah, cool.
Lovely stuff. Thank you very much. So these next set of questions are for Sophia. What is your job role and what does a kind of day in the life generally look like?
Hi, so my job role is a community engagement officer. I'm based in Southall at the Green Quarter. Part of my job is to liaise with local stakeholders, such as local businesses and authorities, communicating the site activities to them, engaging them in the events taking place at the Green Quarter. We host events regularly, open to everyone in Southall. So part of my job is to work in the event management, let's say, of that. And I am contacting suppliers, for example, set them up with the accounts team, communicate these events through the resident portal. So another part of the job that I really enjoy is working with the estates management team to make sure that the community, we already have 1,000 residents here at the Green Quarter, so we need to make sure that all these people feel, you know, empowered and their voices are heard. So there is a neighborhood forum where all these people can express their thoughts about what is happening in the neighborhood. And then the company has developed a very strong relationship with local schools. So we facilitate work placements for students from these local schools. And I make sure that as soon as the student comes in the office, they know how they're going to spend their time, who will be supporting them on a daily basis. And then we also attend careers fairs and events at the schools as well. Then another part that I've been working on is the community plan. Every Berkeley development has a community plan, and we work, everyone in the office works together to make sure that our work is sort of holistic, like the estates management team, the London planning team. So a lot of teamwork is required. And then I am also responsible for the monitoring of all the community and social value initiatives at the development, and I report to the head of social value and the head of community engagement in the office. So yeah, it's a very diverse role, and my days are quite eclectic.
Lovely, thank you. Are there many jobs in the industry that don't include manual labour?
Yes, there are jobs in the industry that don't include manual labor, and There are people in the office who have studied, various disciplines, psychology, sociology, history, and they work in London planning or the marketing team. So quite often I think people believe that to work in a property developer or in the construction, you're going to do manual labor, but that's not the case. There are opportunities for everyone, for people with various skill sets, as long as the candidates have the right attitude and are willing to learn and work in an office-based environment as a team. Yep.
Perfect. Would you recommend a career in construction?
I would recommend a career in construction. It's a very rewarding industry. I've been doing this for 9 months, and everyone has been very supportive in the office. I have mentors and people to guide me. So yeah.
Lovely stuff. So these next set of questions are for Rishan. So again, what is your job role and what does a general day in the life look like?
Hi, I'm an apprentice quantity surveyor. My role is quite diverse, to be fair. Well, it's surrounded by a lot of diverse people. I can actually work on site and in an office. Mostly every day is very different from the previous. My role consists of liaising with clients and subcontractors. We're like the bridge between the client who owns the project and the subcontractors who are hired in order to build the project. With this, we deal with the financial side of things and deal with contracts that bind all parties together within the group in order to complete the job. We do this because looking at horrific events in the past, the contracts allow us to make sure that the works are being carried out within the regulations and standards that the local authorities have. That's basically my job role day to day.
Perfect. What was your biggest barrier when thinking about a career in construction, and how did you kind of overcome that?
My biggest barrier was not feeling like I was able to contribute to the team, as I had little to no experience at all when first joining the company. But after my first successful project, I felt like a massive sense of accomplishment and job satisfaction when I was able to contribute to the development of the building. After this, I wanted to dive into any project or assignment head first and just try to learn as much as possible. Yeah, that was my biggest barrier.
Perfect. Thank you very much. And what do you think the best part about working in the industry is?
Well, I would believe that the variations of projects, it allows us to have conversations with other people within the industry, which also allows us to develop our knowledge of the industry. You're also leaving your own footprint on the new buildings that are being built, and it also provides you and gives you a sense of accomplishment, I suppose.
Lovely. Thank you very much. So I'll pass over to Jasmeet now. What is an apprenticeship?
So an apprenticeship combines our practical training and job along with studying. Through your apprenticeship, you gain job-specific knowledge, skills, behaviours, and also the experience. You are also earning a wage and get holiday pay as a contracted member of staff. You're allocated a tutor working with yourself, your employer, to plan and support you, including visiting you at work. And also you're given off-the-job learning related to your role. So as Sophia mentioned previously, construction does not involve a hard hat and high vis. There's loads of different opportunities within the construction sector. Bricklaying, quantity surveying, site management, dry lining, electrical, welding, plumbing, project management, architecture, engineering, painting and decorating, and I'm sure there's many more in the construction industry. So in relation to apprenticeship levels, each level is equivalent to a different educational level. So a level 2 apprenticeship is equivalent to GCSE. A level 3 is equivalent to A levels. A higher apprenticeship, which is level 4, 5, 6, and 7, are equivalent to a foundation degree and above. And when you're looking at degree level, it's usually a level 6 and 7, which is equivalent to a bachelor's or master's degree. So here is an example of a level 3 standard, which is delivered over 18 months and what it entails. So month 0 to 15 is all about the learning. So you're learning the relevant knowledge, skills and behaviours that have been set out in your apprenticeship standard. If you do not have maths and English functional skills, which need to have been achieved at level 2, then you can do this as part of your apprenticeship. When you get to the gateway point, which is month 15, at that point you would have achieved your maths and English functional skills level 2. That's if you haven't achieved them already, then through your apprenticeship you would have achieved them at this point, and you would have met the minimum requirements of the apprenticeship standard, and then you would be ready to go on to the next stage, which is the EPA endpoint assessment. So the endpoint assessment is 3 different elements included in this, which is the knowledge test, project presentation, and your portfolio interview. And at the end of this, the grading for EPAs is at fail, pass and distinction. And last of all, eligibility. So in order to do an apprenticeship, you have to be 16 and over, not in full-time education, have been a resident in the EU for the past 3 years and have proof of this, have a national insurance number, and we would always recommend is check specific criteria, as it does differ from different employer to employer. So for example, at Ealing Council, you have to be living in the borough or have studied in the borough for the last 3 years. And all different organisations have different criteria based on the industry and also where they're located as well.
Perfect. Thank you very much to all our guest speakers. That concludes our webinar for today. If you do have any more kind of questions or queries, or are just interested in a career and kind of want to know how to start, where to start, then please don't hesitate to contact us. Our emails below. Our Work Ealing team is for all employment, and then our apprenticeships team is for our apprenticeship opportunities as well. And we do have our website, workealing.com, where all of our vacancies, including our construction vacancies, are posted. So yes, thank you again, and thank you for watching.